I need you to do something for me right now. Stop. Hold completely still. Don't make a sound, because in the last 10 minutes, sitting right there in your own home, you've probably done at least 3 things that, to me, looked exactly like the approach of a creature that wants to eat me. You didn't mean to. You'd never hurt me, I know that. You're my favorite human in the whole world. But here's the thing. Nobody tells you when you bring a little bird home. My brain is not your brain. My brain was built, over millions of years, by ancestors who survived because they were terrified of the right things at the right moments. And a lot of those right things, the silhouettes, the movements, the sounds that scream danger to me, are the most ordinary, harmless, everyday parts of your life. So today, I'm going to let you inside my head. I'm going to show you 7 completely normal things you do, things you probably did this morning that quietly scare the feathers off me. And by the end, you'll understand me better than 99% of bird owners ever will. Hello, and welcome back to the Golden Aviary. I'm Birdie, your favorite charming, dashing, slightly dramatic little golden canary. And yes, before you ask, the drama is a survival trait. Thank you very much. If you're new here, hit subscribe and stick around, because understanding what frightens your bird isn't just interesting trivia. It's the difference between a bird who lives anxious and on edge, and a bird who feels safe enough to sing, to play, to truly trust you. Now, I want to be clear before we dive in. None of these 7 things make you a bad owner. Quite the opposite. The fact that you're here, trying to see the world through my eyes, makes you exactly the kind of human every bird hopes to get. So don't feel guilty. Just stay with me to the very end, because the last one is the one almost everybody gets wrong, and it's the one that matters most. Ready? Let's climb inside the mind of a very small, very nervous, very lovable bird. Number 1. Looming over me from above. This is the big one, the granddaddy of all bird fears, and you do it constantly without the faintest idea you're doing it. Picture the scene from my perspective. I'm down here, small, in my cage, going about my business, and suddenly a huge shape rises up over the top of me, blocking out the light, descending toward me from above. To you, that's just you reaching into the cage to refill my food or leaning over to say good morning. But let me tell you what millions of years of evolution have hardwired into my tiny skull. For my wild ancestors, the things that came from above, the hawks, the owls, the falcons, were death itself. A shadow growing larger overhead meant talons, meant being snatched off the branch in a heartbeat. So my brain has one absolutely non-negotiable rule burned into it. Big thing from above equals predator. Run. Even though I know, somewhere in my little mind, that you are not a hawk, the instinct fires before the logic catches up. My heart slams. My body screams, flee. That's why when you reach down into the cage from the top, I sometimes flap and panic and crash about. I'm not being difficult. I'm a prey animal responding to a predator silhouette. The kind of way? Approach me from the side, at my level, slowly, where I can see your hands coming. Talk to me first so I know it's you. Place my food at a low door rather than swooping in from the ceiling of my world. Come up to me like a friend arriving, not down on me like something hunting. And let me give you a little test you can run on yourself. The next time you go to interact with me, freeze for a second and notice the angle of your hand. Is it coming down toward the crown of my head, the most vulnerable spot on my whole body, the place a hawk would strike? Or is it coming in from the side, at my eye level, where I can track it and understand it? That one small change from above to beside can take a bird who flaps and panics every single time and turn him over weeks into a bird who steps up calmly and happily. It feels like nothing to you. To me, it's the difference between a sky full of predators and a handful of a friend. Number 2. Sudden fast movements. Oh, this one. You have no idea how jumpy I am because to you, your movements feel perfectly normal. You jump up off the couch when your phone rings, you suddenly throw your arms up because your team scored, you reach quickly across the table to grab something before it falls. All completely reasonable human behavior. But here is what your nervous system doesn't appreciate. My eyes and my brain are tuned to detect motion far faster than yours. In the wild, the bird who noticed the quick movement in the bushes and bolted before even identifying what it was lived to have babies. The bird who waited around to get a better look became lunch. So I am built to treat sudden, fast motion as a threat first and ask questions never. When you spring up quickly nearby, when an arm flings out, when something darts across my field of vision, my instinct doesn't pause to consider whether it's dangerous. It just launches me into panic. This is why calm, smooth, predictable movement around me is one of the greatest gifts you can give. It's not that I need you to tiptoe around like a mime forever. It's that the more slow and steady your movements are, especially up close, the more my body learns that your home is a place where nothing lunges, nothing strikes, nothing comes flying at me out of nowhere. A calm human makes a calm bird. And let me give you a fascinating little detail about why this is. My eyes process the world at a much higher frame rate than yours. Where you might see a smooth, continuous motion, I see it broken into far more individual moments, which means fast movements look even faster and more jarring to me than they do to you. A quick wave of your hand that feels gentle and friendly from your side can look, to my high-speed eyes, like a sudden blur lunging through the air. It's not that I'm overreacting, it's that I am literally seeing a different, faster version of the same movement. So when you slow down around me, you're not just being polite, you're translating your motion into something my eyes can actually read as calm. Number 3, and this one is going to surprise you. Direct staring eye contact. I know. You stare at me lovingly all the time. You gaze into my little face and tell me how precious I am, and your heart melts. And mine sometimes does a nervous little flip because of where eyes come from in my world. Think about every predator you've ever seen. The cat, the hawk, the owl, the fox. What do they all have? 2 eyes facing forward, locked onto their target. The way a hunter's eyes lock onto prey. Forward-facing eyes staring straight at you is the universal signal of a predator that has noticed you and is deciding to pounce. Prey animals like me, by contrast, have eyes on the sides of our heads to watch in every direction for danger. So when a big face turns toward me and 2 big eyes fix directly on me and hold the stare, a part of my brain quietly sounds the alarm. Now please don't stop looking at me, I'd be heartbroken. The trick is in how you look. Soft eyes, not a hard stare. Blink slowly. Glance at me, then glance away, then back. The relaxed way friends look at each other, rather than the unblinking lock-on of something about to strike. Turn your head a little to the side now and then, instead of facing me head-on. These tiny adjustments tell my ancient brain, this big creature is comfortable and relaxed, not hunting. And that lets me relax too. Number 4. Bright, unfamiliar colors and patterns, especially things you wear. This one makes humans laugh until they see it happen, and then they finally believe me. You can be the gentlest, most beloved person in my life, and then one day you walk in wearing a brand new bright red sweater or a hat you've never worn, or you're carrying a big shiny balloon, and suddenly I am losing my entire mind, screaming, flapping, convinced the apocalypse has arrived, and you stand there baffled going, but it's just me. Here's what's happening in my head. In nature, bright, bold, unusual colors and patterns often mean danger. They can signal a venomous creature, a warning, something to avoid at all costs. And novelty itself, anything new and unexpected in my familiar environment, is inherently suspicious to a prey animal because the world I know is the world I've judged to be safe, and anything that suddenly appears in it could be a threat I haven't learned about yet. A new object, a strange pattern, an unfamiliar shape moving toward me, all of it trips the alarm. The fix is patience and gentleness. Introduce new things slowly and from a distance. Let me look at the scary new object from across the room before it ever comes close. Set it down and let me decide, in my own time, that it's not going to eat me. Never thrust something new straight at me. Let curiosity win the race against fear, on my schedule, not yours. And here's a charming little secret about this one. The very same instinct that makes me terrified of new things is also what makes me so wonderfully playful and curious once I feel safe. Fear and curiosity are 2 sides of the same coin in my brain, both of them ways of dealing with the new and unknown. So when you introduce a new toy gently, from a distance, and let me approach it in my own time, you're not just avoiding a scare. You're giving my curiosity room to bloom, and a curious, engaged bird is a happy, mentally healthy bird. Rush me and you get fear. Respect my pace, and that same energy turns into the delightful, nosy, into everything little explorer I was born to be. Number 5. Loud, sudden noises. Now you might think, well, of course loud noises scare a small animal, that's obvious. But I don't think you fully grasp just how much of your everyday soundscape is, to me, a series of small heart attacks. The vacuum cleaner roaring to life, a door slamming in a draft, pots clattering in the sink, the smoke alarm chirping, a sneeze that comes out of you like a gunshot, the blender, the coffee grinder, the doorbell, your phone going off at full volume right next to my cage. To you, this is just the ordinary noise of a life being lived. To me, every sudden loud sound is a potential predator, a branch breaking under a stalking paw, a screech of alarm from another bird. My body responds to each one with a jolt of fear, and if these jolts come often enough, with no warning, I live in a state of low, constant stress that wears me down. Here's what helps. You can't silence your whole life, and I wouldn't want you to. But you can be thoughtful about where my cage lives. Keep me away from the noisiest zones, the kitchen during cooking chaos, the spot right beside the front door. And here's a lovely trick. Warn me. Talk to me right before you switch on the vacuum. Say something, anything, in your normal voice so the noise has a friendly herald instead of arriving like an ambush. Predictable noise is far less frightening than noise that explodes out of silence. The warning gives my little nervous system a half second to brace, and that makes all the difference. And let me share one more thing about noise that surprises a lot of people. It isn't always the loudest sounds that frighten me most. It's the unexpected ones. A steady, predictable hum, like a fan that runs all day, fades into the background and stops bothering me entirely, because my brain learns it's harmless and tunes it out. But a sound that comes out of nowhere, even a fairly quiet one, a sudden clatter, a phone buzzing against a hard surface, a bag rustling sharply behind me, can startle me far worse than something much louder that I saw coming. Predictability is the magic word. The more rhythm and routine my days have, the more my brain can sort the world into expected and safe versus new and worth a panic, and the calmer I become overall. Number 6. Hands. Specifically, hands coming straight at me, grabbing or closing around me. I adore you, but I have a complicated relationship with your hands, and I want to explain why, because so many people take it personally when they shouldn't. A hand reaching toward me, fingers spread, moving to enclose me, looks remarkably like the thing a predator does right before it catches a bird. The grasping motion, the closing in, the sense of being trapped with no escape route. For a creature whose entire survival strategy is the ability to fly away, being grabbed and held, losing the option to flee, is one of the most primally terrifying experiences there is. This is why even birds who love their owners can panic when hands close around them, and why grabbing a frightened bird to calm it down almost always does the exact opposite. Here is the path to peace with hands. Let my relationship with your hands be built entirely on good things, never force. Hands that offer treats. Hands that rest calmly nearby without grabbing. Hands that let me choose to step up, rather than scooping me up against my will. A flat, still, open hand with a favorite snack on it teaches me that hands are wonderful. A hand that lunges and grabs teaches me that hands are the enemy. Give me the choice every single time, and watch how quickly I come to you on my own. Trust cannot be grabbed. It can only be offered. And if you've ever wondered why some birds will happily step onto a hand but absolutely refuse to be picked up and held, this is the entire reason. Stepping up is my choice. I'm in control. I can step off again whenever I like, and my escape route stays open. But being scooped up and enclosed takes that control away completely, and for a creature whose whole safety depends on the freedom to leave, that loss of control is the scariest feeling in the world. So if you only remember one thing about hands, remember this. Always leave me a way out. A bird who knows he can always leave is a bird who, paradoxically, almost never wants to. And now, number 7. The one almost everybody gets wrong, the one I begged you to stay until the end for. Are you ready? Number 7 is leaving me completely alone, in total silence, for long stretches of time. I know. After 6 things about being too much, too loud, too close, this feels like a contradiction. But stay with me, because this is the deepest truth about who I really am. Out in the wild, I'm a flock animal. I'm never, ever truly alone, because being alone, for a bird, means being exposed, vulnerable, and in danger. The flock is safety. The flock is the dozens of extra eyes watching for hawks, the chatter that says, all is well, the warm presence that means I'm not the last one left, the easy target. So when you leave me in a silent, empty home, hour after hour, with no sound, no movement, no sign of my flock, a deep and ancient loneliness sets in that is every bit as stressful as any predator. Total silence to a flock bird doesn't feel peaceful. It feels wrong. It feels like the moment after everyone else has fled and only you remain. This is why a bird left alone too much, too often, can spiral into stress, into feather plucking, into screaming, into a quiet kind of despair. We are not decorations to be admired and then ignored. We are social creatures who need to feel the presence of our flock. And here, your flock includes you. So what do I need? I need to feel included in the life of the home. Leave a radio or soft music playing when you're out, so the silence isn't total. Position my cage where the family passes by, where I can see and hear the comings and goings, where I'm part of things. Talk to me from across the room, even when you're busy. Just a word here and there to say, I'm here, you're not alone. Give me a companion if my situation allows it. And when you are home, spend real time near me, not always handling me, just being present, being my flock. Because the cruelest thing you can do to a bird is not to scare him. It's to make him feel that he has been left behind by everyone he loves. So let me gather all 7 together for you, because once you see them as a whole, the picture of who I am snaps perfectly into focus. I'm frightened of big shapes from above because of the hawks. I'm frightened of sudden fast movement because of the strike of the predator. I'm wary of a hard, direct stare because that's the look of a hunter who's chosen its target. I startle at bright, unfamiliar things because novelty might be danger. I jump at loud, sudden sounds because they could be the snap of a branch beneath a paw. I dread grabbing hands because losing the power to fly away is my deepest fear. And underneath all of it, I cannot bear to be truly lastingly alone, because a bird without its flock is a bird in mortal peril. Do you see the thread running through every single one? It's not that I'm fragile or silly or impossibly high maintenance. It's that I am a prey animal, a small soft creature whose ancestors survived precisely because they took these fears seriously. Every nervous flutter, every startle, every panic is the echo of 100,000 grandparents who lived long enough to pass those instincts down to me. My fear isn't weakness. My fear is the reason my kind is still here at all. And here is what I most want you to carry away from all this. The thing that turns all this knowledge into something beautiful. None of these instincts mean I can't be calm, confident, and deeply bonded to you. They simply mean that my trust has to be earned in my language, not assumed in yours. Every time you approach me from the side instead of above, you're speaking my language. Every time you move slowly, warn me before a loud noise, offer your hand instead of grabbing, let a new object approach on my schedule, and make sure I never feel abandoned by my flock. You are telling my ancient, anxious little brain the same wonderful message over and over. You are safe. Nothing here is hunting you. You can let your guard down. You can rest. And slowly, beautifully I do. The flinching fades, the panic quiets, and in its place grows the thing every bird owner dreams of. A bird who flies to you willingly, who sings when you enter the room, who falls asleep with one eye half closed because he finally, truly, feels safe in your care. That's not something you can force. It's something you grow, one respectful, patient, loving choice at a time. So now I'm dying to know, and I want you to tell me everything down in the comments. Which of these 7 surprised you the most? If this helped you see the world a little more through my eyes, do subscribe and stay with us here at the Golden Aviary, where we look after these small, bright lives together, one act of understanding at a time. Now, if you'll excuse me, my human just stood up very suddenly to get a snack, and I need a moment to recover from the heart attack. I'll see you in the next one.